Are you ready to confront pure terror? Turn on the lights. They won't save you. We're opening the doors to a world where darkness doesn't just blind, it consumes the soul. Here, in the darkest corners of the night, even your breath can become a harbinger of nightmares. Question everything you knew about safety and comfort. Are you prepared to hear eerie whispers from nowhere, invade your mind, and torment every thought? Leave your fears at the door, because what we show you will make them burst forth.
Sophia and her partner Alex were an ordinary young couple looking for an adventure. Recently, they had heard tales of an old house on the outskirts of town known for its dark history and chilling rumors. This was not just any house, it was said to be haunted by the spirits of those who had met their demise within its walls. Intrigued by the stories and seeking a thrill, they decided to spend the night there. As they approached the house, excitement bubbled beneath a thin veil of unease. The house loomed before them, its silhouette jagged against the darkening sky. Weathered wooden boards creaked as the wind whispered through the trees surrounding the property. Vines snaked up the walls, clutching the house as if trying to pull it back into the earth. The windows, shattered and grimy, seemed to watch them with an unblinking gaze. A chill ran down Sophia's spine as she caught sight of a flickering light through one of the cracked panes. Was it a reflection, or something more sinister? As they stepped onto the porch, the wooden planks groaned beneath their weight. In the stillness, an unsettling silence enveloped them, punctured only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant hoot of an owl. Sophia could have sworn she heard a faint whisper, though she brushed it off as her imagination. Shadows danced at the edges of her vision, fleeting and elusive, drawing her attention. As they entered the house, the air turned heavy and stale. Dust motes floated lazily in the dim light, and the scent of mildew hung thick. Each step echoed through the empty halls, amplifying their sense of isolation. Little did they know, the night ahead would test their courage and resourcefulness in ways they could never have anticipated. As Sophia and Alex ventured deeper into the house, an unsettling atmosphere thickened around them. The dim light from their flashlight flickered against the peeling wallpaper, revealing strange symbols etched into the wood. Curiosity mingled with dread as they traced their fingers over the marks, feeling an electric charge beneath their skin. The house was alive, pulsing with secrets from a past they could not comprehend. Every room they entered seemed to tell a story of despair. A locked door caught Sophia's eye, its surface marred with scratches as if something had desperately tried to escape. Alex tried the handle, but it was securely fastened. A sense of foreboding washed over them, and they exchanged anxious glances. What lay behind that door? The air grew colder, and Sophia felt a shiver crawl up her spine. As they continued their exploration, they stumbled upon a room filled with strange artifacts, broken dolls, tarnished mirrors, and rusty tools that hinted at past horrors. A table stood at the center, littered with tattered notes and photographs depicting rituals that had taken place within these very walls. The images were disturbing, showcasing figures draped in dark cloaks, faces obscured, performing gruesome ceremonies. Sophia's heart raced as she pieced together fragments of the house's history. This was not merely a haunted dwelling, it was a stage for something far more sinister. She could feel the shadows growing closer, wrapping around them like a suffocating shroud. Whispers echoed through the halls, unintelligible yet insistent. Paranoia settled in, making her question every creak of the floorboards and gust of wind. Suddenly, a loud bang resonated from somewhere deep within the house, reverberating through their bones. They froze, eyes wide with terror, and listened intently. Sophia could hear her heartbeat thundering in her ears. They were not alone. The realization gripped them with icy fingers. The house was alive, and it had its own plans for them. The atmosphere shifted abruptly as shadows coalesced into forms that seemed to seep from the walls. Dark figures emerged from the corners of the room, their movements unnaturally fluid and predatory. The psychopaths revealed themselves, clad in tattered clothing that clung to their gaunt frames. Their faces were obscured by masks crafted from twisted leather and bone. Hollow eyes gleamed with a malevolence that sent chills down Sophia's spine. With a jarring laugh that echoed through the halls, the leader stepped forward. His voice was smooth, yet laced with madness. He welcomed Sophia and Alex to their new reality, explaining the rules of their deadly games. They were not merely players, they were the entertainment. The psychopaths had orchestrated this night as a horrifying spectacle, manipulating fear and strength as if they were marionettes on strings. Sophia's heart raced as she processed their sinister intentions. They were to be subjects in a series of twisted rituals designed to test the limits of their sanity and survival. Each game promised a different horror, a new trial that would strip away their humanity. The psychopaths reveled in the chaos they had created, their laughter echoing like a grotesque symphony. In that moment, the couple's minds raced with panic and disbelief. The walls felt as if they were closing in, the air thick with impending doom. The psychopaths circled them like vultures, their eyes gleaming with anticipation. Sophia could see the glint of sharp blades hidden beneath their cloaks. Alex gripped her hand tightly, his knuckles white, as they exchanged a look that conveyed their shared terror. The realization of their true situation settled heavily upon them. They were trapped in a nightmare, the line between life and death blurred by the sadistic intentions of their captors. The darkness that enveloped the house was no longer just a backdrop, it was a living entity, hungry for their fear. As the psychopaths closed in, the couple braced themselves for the horrors that awaited, their minds racing with thoughts of escape, determination, and the chilling weight of despair. Sophia and Alex stood frozen in the dimly lit corridor, their breath hitching as the psychopaths loomed closer. The house, with its maze-like structure, twisted their sense of direction. Every turn revealed more horrors. The walls were adorned with grotesque portraits, their subjects seemingly alive, eyes following the couple's every move. The air crackled with tension, heavy with the scent of decay. Panic surged through Sophia as she remembered the locked door. Perhaps it held a way out, or at least a momentary refuge. She pulled Alex towards the door, desperation fueling their hurried steps. They reached the threshold, and Sophia pressed her ear against the cold wood, listening for any sign of life within. Nothing but silence echoed back. Alex fumbled with the lock, but it was stubborn, refusing to yield. Behind them, the psychopaths cackled, their voices a chilling soundtrack to their plight. Time was running out. Sophia glanced around the hallway, searching for anything that could aid their escape. A dusty old cabinet caught her eye. She rushed to it, throwing open the doors to reveal a collection of rusty tools and shattered glass. She grabbed a jagged piece of metal, her heart pounding as she turned back to Alex. They returned to the door, and with a fierce determination, Sophia began to scrape the metal against the lock. Each screech echoed ominously through the corridor, heightening the tension as the psychopaths closed in. Just as despair threatened to swallow them whole, the lock gave way with a satisfying click. They burst through the door into a room filled with darkness. Inside, the atmosphere shifted. The air was thick and suffocating, heavy with dread. The walls glistened with moisture, and the floor was slick beneath their feet. They quickly scanned the room, revealing a series of ominous puzzles scattered about. An ancient table held a collection of sinister-looking objects' keys, a broken clock, and a torn map of the house. Sophia's resourcefulness ignited. She gathered the keys, hoping one might unlock their next escape route. The couple moved cautiously, careful not to trigger any hidden traps. Suddenly, a loud clang echoed from above as a heavy chandelier swung ominously, nearly missing them. They ducked just in time, adrenaline surging through their veins. Their desperation grew as they navigated through the nightmarish decor. Each corner seemed to hold a new terror, a room filled with grotesque mannequins, their painted smiles mocking, a hallway lined with mirrors reflecting distorted versions of themselves. Sophia felt the weight of their situation heavy on her shoulders, but she refused to succumb to fear. With every passing moment, the couple's bond strengthened. They communicated silently, their eyes darting between the map and the looming shadows. Each puzzle they encountered pushed their limits, testing their resolve. They were not just fighting for their lives, but for each other. As they pressed on, the house seemed to watch, waiting for their next move, the psychopaths lurking just out of sight, relishing the hunt. The first trial was a chilling spectacle. Sophia and Alex were led into a dimly lit chamber where the air was thick with the scent of blood and despair. A circular arena was marked on the floor, surrounded by the psychopaths who watched with gleeful anticipation. In the center lay a set of crude instruments, each more horrifying than the last. The leader of the psychopaths grinned as he explained the rules. They had to choose a weapon and face off against a fellow captive, a trembling figure in the corner. The choice was simple, yet grotesque: fight for survival or succumb to the madness. As the first strike was made, the sound of metal against flesh echoed through the room. The captive shrieked, a sound that sent a wave of terror through Sophia. She could see the madness in their eyes, the desperate will to live pitted against the horror of violence. The psychopaths cheered, their laughter a chilling chorus that filled the chamber. Each blow was met with gasps and groans, and the walls seemed to absorb the agony, pulsing with the dark energy of the night. Sophia felt the psychological toll weighing heavily on her. She turned away, unable to watch as the captive was overwhelmed, blood pooling around them. The next trial was no better. They were thrust into a room filled with mirrors, each reflection distorting their features into grotesque parodies. The psychopaths instructed them to confront their darkest fears, forcing them to relive their most traumatic memories. Sophia felt her heart race as her reflection morphed into the faces of her past, taunting her with failures and regrets. The next victim they encountered was chained to the wall, eyes wide with terror. They whispered warnings of what awaited, their voice a tremor of despair. The fate that had befallen them was a living nightmare, a warning that echoed in Sophia's mind. The reality of their predicament became clearer with each passing trial. The house fed on their fear, and the psychopaths were its puppeteers. The final trial was the most gruesome. They were faced with a choice that would haunt them forever: sacrifice another captive or watch them meet a torturous end. The tension in the room escalated, each second stretching into an eternity. The screams of those who had come before them echoed in their minds, a relentless reminder of the horrors that awaited if they failed. Time was not on their side as the psychopaths closed in, the darkness pressing against them, hungry for their despair. Sophia's heart raced as she and Alex found themselves cornered in the dimly lit chamber. The atmosphere was thick with dread, each breath they took feeling like a step deeper into hell. The psychopaths, emboldened by their prior games, surrounded them, their hollow eyes gleaming with sadistic delight. Whispers of darkness slithered through the air, hinting at the demonic forces that seemed to be at play. The leader stepped forward, his voice a chilling caress. He spoke of the final confrontation, a twisted climax that would test not just their physical strength, but the very essence of their souls. The room darkened, shadows stretching and warping, revealing glimpses of nightmarish figures lurking just beyond the flickering light. They were no longer merely participants in a game. They were about to face the embodiment of evil itself. Fear coursed through Sophia as she glanced at Alex, their shared determination igniting a flicker of hope against the encroaching darkness. They had survived the horrors thus far, but this was different. The stakes had never been higher. The psychopaths began to chant, their voices rising in a cacophony that echoed off the walls, summoning an unseen presence. It felt as if the very fabric of the house was shifting, coiling around them like a serpent ready to strike. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet trembled, and a low growl reverberated through the chamber. Shadows congealed, forming grotesque shapes that danced at the edge of their vision. Sophia and Alex stood back to back, each fighting the primal urge to flee. The leader raised his arms, and the room pulsated with energy, the air thickening with malevolence. Sophia's mind raced as she recalled the artifacts they had encountered, the symbols, the rituals. Could they channel the energy against these monsters? She clutched the jagged piece of metal she had salvaged earlier, feeling the weight of her resolve. As the demonic presence surged forward, she felt an ancient force awaken within her, urging her to confront the darkness. With a fierce shout, Sophia lunged forward, brandishing the metal shard. Just as the shadows reached for them, she struck a nearby wall, sending shockwaves through the chamber. The impact shattered the illusion, revealing the true forms of their captors, twisted, hideous beings that fed on despair. The psychopaths recoiled, momentarily stunned. Alex joined her, their desperate struggle igniting a surge of courage. Together, they unleashed a wave of defiance that rippled through the air, pushing back against the encroaching evil. The shadows shrieked in fury, the room vibrating with the clash of light and darkness. But the battle was far from over. The leader, recovering swiftly, unleashed a torrent of rage. With a guttural roar, he charged, the other psychopaths following suit. Sophia and Alex braced themselves, their hearts pounding, knowing that they must fight not just for their survival, but for the very essence of their souls. In that harrowing moment, they understood they were no longer mere victims. They were warriors against the abyss. Sophia and Alex's frantic attempts to navigate the house took a terrifying turn as they stumbled upon a hidden passageway. The air was thick with despair, and the echoes of the psychopath's laughter reverberated in their ears. With a surge of adrenaline, they dashed into the narrow corridor, their hearts pounding in rhythm with their racing thoughts. Each footfall felt like a countdown to their demise. Would they be able to escape, or would they fall victim to the house's malevolent forces? As they ran, the shadows seemed to stretch and constrict around them, the walls closing in as if the house itself was intent on swallowing them whole. They could hear the distant sounds of their pursuers, the chilling cackles growing louder with each passing second. Fear clawed at their throats, but they pushed forward, driven by a primal instinct to survive. The corridor twisted and turned, leading them into a dimly lit room filled with remnants of past horrors, old furniture draped in sheets and dust motes dancing in the stagnant air. In the center of the room, a single door beckoned with a faint glow. Desperation fueled their determination as they approached it, their fingers trembling with anticipation. Alex grasped the handle, heart racing as he twisted it. The door creaked open, revealing a blinding light that spilled into the darkness. Hope surged within them as they stepped through the threshold, feeling the weight of the house's evil begin to lift. However, their relief was short-lived. Behind them, the howls of the psychopaths echoed, a haunting reminder of the darkness they were escaping. They stumbled out into the night, the cool air hitting their skin like a baptism. The moon hung high above, casting an eerie glow that illuminated their path. Yet, as they fled, the horrors of the night weighed heavily on their minds. They could feel the lingering presence of the house, the memories of blood and despair etched into their souls. Physically drained and emotionally shattered, they collapsed onto the grass outside, gasping for breath. The world around them was silent, save for the distant rustle of leaves and the pounding of their hearts. Sophia's hands trembled as she clutched Alex, their connection a fragile lifeline amid the chaos. They had escaped the clutches of evil, but the scars of their ordeal were etched deep within them, forever binding them to the darkness they had faced. In the weeks that followed their harrowing escape, the shadows of the house haunted Sophia and Alex relentlessly. Each night, As darkness enveloped their home, they found themselves gripped by an overwhelming sense of dread. The walls of their sanctuary felt thin, as if the horrors they had witnessed were just a breath away, waiting to seep back into their lives. Sophia often awoke in the dead of night, drenched in sweat, the cold grip of fear squeezing her heart. Nightmares plagued her, vivid recollections of the psychopath's laughter echoing in her mind, their hollow eyes boring into her soul. She would sit up in bed, her breath hitching as she scanned the room for shadows that morphed into grotesque figures. Alex, too, struggled with the remnants of their ordeal. He would often stare blankly into space, lost in thoughts of the captives they had encountered, their screams etched into his memory. Despite their attempts to move forward, they could feel the house's malevolence lingering like a thick fog. Whispers of their nightmarish experiences crept into their conversations, unearthing buried fears and regrets. They found themselves avoiding dark corners or secluded places, convinced that the evil they had escaped was now following them, biding its time. One evening, as they sat on the porch, the air heavy with an unsettling silence, they noticed a figure watching them from the edge of the woods. At first, it seemed like a trick of the light, a mere shadow cast by the moon. But as they squinted, the figure remained, shrouded in darkness, its outline eerily familiar. Their hearts raced, and a chill ran down Sophia's spine. Could it be one of the psychopaths? With a sudden rush of panic, they bolted inside, locking the door behind them. As they leaned against the door, breathing heavily, the realization hit them: the house was not finished with them. It had sent its agents to claim them, and the nightmare was far from over. The laughter of the psychopaths echoed faintly in the distance, a sinister reminder that the evil they thought they had escaped was only waiting for the right moment to strike again.